All right, folks. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Pleasure to see you all. I know it's a little hot in here, so bear with us. But this is the third annual CMJ PR panel discussion. Today we're talking about beauty, fashion, and lifestyle PR, so thank you for coming with us. In the back, you will see a couple of things in terms of information about our department, as well as our PRSSA, the Tower, WKNJ, as well as Kane TV. If anyone is not a comm major or is not familiar with the School of Communication, we have tons of information back there, as well as three great panelists here to give you their time for the next hour to really talk about anything that you're curious about regarding beauty, fashion, or lifestyle public relations. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists now, and we'll get underway. I've got a list of prepared questions, but we'd love to hear from you as well, so please certainly feel free, anything on your mind, to raise that hand and get those questions answered. So without further ado, I'm sure you're tired of hearing from me already. You'd love to hear from our panelists. Let's get underway. To my immediate left here, we have Stephanie Bustamante. She is representing First and Last PR. I'll read you a little bit about them now. First and Last PR is a highly regarded, award-winning, independent beauty public relations and digital media marketing firm providing services to leading luxury as well as consumer product good companies, mid-sized beauty firms, and the next generation of innovative beauty brands. Based out of Jersey City, First and Last PR is led by Stephanie Scott, who most notably was named by Essence Magazine as one of the top 50 founders to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie Bustamante.
Pleasure being here. Hi, everyone.
To her left, up next is our second panelist, Alana Zalika. Alana Zalika is CEO and founder of Resound Marketing, an NJ Biz top 20 PR agency with offices in Princeton, New Jersey, and Midtown Manhattan. Alana has over 20 years of experience working with brands across a range of industries, including lifestyle, health, beauty, and tech, to build visibility and credibility through a mix of traditional PR, organic and paid social media, influencer marketing, which I'm sure we'll talk a lot about today as well, and last but not least, events. Of note, now in its 15th year, Resound's marketing clients include a mix of emerging and establishing brands, from startups like Soapbox Soaps and Harmless Harvest to category leaders like Polaroid. Last but not least, Alana is President-elect and current Communications Chair of PRSA NJ, and we're so happy to have her here as well. So ladies and gentlemen, Alana Zalika. And last but certainly not least, to her immediate left, Amanda Sapphire Billingham, passionate about empowering clients through progressive practices. Amanda has spent the past decade working in the crosshairs of media relations, communications, and strategic branding to create impactful campaigns that produce compounding results. Specializing in the lifestyle arena, Amanda has worked with notable fashion brands such as Converse, Dr. Martin, and Stella McCartney, along with blue chip heavyweights such as Casio, G-Shock. In her role at M Studio, Amanda is an account manager. Ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Sapphire Billingham. So now we got a chance to get to know one another. We open the floor up now with just a little bit about each of our panelists beyond what the bio has shared. If you wouldn't mind giving us just some insights in terms of the work you're doing right now, some of your clients, and what's led you on your career path. We'll start off with whoever would like to go first.
Absolutely, I can start. So again, I'm Stephanie Bustamante. I am the account manager at First and Last PR. I actually graduated with a PR degree, in a bachelor's degree in communication, focusing on public relations. And I was interning while in school and at First and Last PR, and was able to get an immediate opportunity to work for First and Last PR there. And the process has been a journey, an unforgettable journey, from working to planning events, planning PR programs, creating timelines, just tailoring each client's need based off what their PR needs are. So my day-to-day just goes from conference calls with clients, preparing, planning future activations for clients, and just everything in between. So that's a little bit of what PR does. And then it goes back to the beauty industry. So working with media outlets that are more in tune with the beauty representation. So magazines, beauty bloggers, which is so huge right now. The beauty influencers. So creating strategic plans, planning events and timelines, and just having a strategic approach to everything is what my job entails at First and Last PR So
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no
We'll
problem.
transition to Alana.
Thank you. So, so my role at Resound, obviously, I'm the founder. So I do a lot of everything, and I'm sure we can talk a little bit more about specifics. But my background is actually that I was an English major in college, and I think that that is really relevant because communications to me is obviously at the core of everything that we do. And if you can't effectively explain what it is you need to explain in just a few minutes before a member of the press hangs up on you, which is often a big hazing thing that you'll all experience if you ever work in an agency, you know, you really shouldn't be in PR. So being able to communicate concisely and effectively has always been a big thing for me, and being an English major really gave me the tools I needed to be able to do that. So at Resound, you know, we call ourselves a generalist agency, which means that we work across all different categories. So we do some beauty, some lifestyle, we've done some fashion, but really we focus on kind of bringing expertise to any industry. And I think what you're going to hear a lot of today probably is that we used to be a PR agency, but now we're so much more than that because PR has become such a varied profession at this point, and there's so many kind of blurry lines between influencers and events and bloggers and media and social media and everything that comes with it. We're all really adapting our strategies and our tactics to make sure that we're addressing all of those really important elements of the marketing mix. So that's something that with our clients, we're looking so much beyond just traditional media at this point and really thinking about, okay, who are they targeting, how do they want to get out there, and what channels can we use to do it? So that's a little bit.
Thank you so much. We'll transition now to Amanda.
Hey, I'm Amanda. So my whole background, I have a degree in visual communication. So I studied everything from marketing events and marketing to, you know, how to do window displays. I actually went to fashion school. I went to a fashion university and kind of parlayed my interest in fashion and business into kind of falling into PR in a cool and organic way. And then I interned all through college and kind of just discovered I had a good knack for it. I focused mainly in fashion to begin my whole career. And once I met my now husband, decided I did not want to commute into the city and was lucky enough to find a creative agency in Asbury Park, M Studio, where I work now. And what is unique to it, to totally what you're saying is, you know, there is, and certain companies may still qualify themselves just as a PR firm, but at the end of the day, no one is just a PR firm and you are not a publicist. Like, I would quickly identify when I started off, like, I'm going to be a publicist, and now it's like, I'm a communicator. Like, I think that's really the best way to kind of understand it, is because it isn't just using PR as a vehicle, it's using all different types of communications and different media relations, whether that's with a blogger or an influencer, or, you know, you have your traditional, like, editors still exist, which is awesome. But it is very different. So at M Studio, we work with a variety of products and brands, whether it's going to be maybe slightly in the fashion space or arts. We do a lot of art. I work with a whiskey brand. So no matter kind of what sector of lifestyle, or even if you find yourself in the tech space or anything, it really is applying the exact same principles to identifying who you need to connect with and what's the best means of connecting with their target audience. So I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about that today. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Great way to open, a great way to open. Well, now we'll turn to the audience. Anybody have any questions they want to ask before we go back to our master list of questions? Anything on your mind? Open floor. Okay. This one, yes, Chris.
You spoke on saying you started off in English, and that you had the tools necessary because of that. But I find there's always something that you need to add to that belt. What was one of those that you see may have been difficulty to adjust to, especially transitioning from English to PR?
From English, yeah. So I think, generally speaking, what you learn in school is such a small fraction of what you actually learn in, you know, the office. And I think, I'm sure, you know, you've heard a lot about how important internships are, and that's part of why, because what, you know, you learn things in a classroom, and then when you are really face to face with client work and all of that, you kind of throw it all out the window. There's a good base, but there's a lot more that you have to learn through experience. So I think that, you know, if I were to to pick something specific, I think with English, what I really learned was strong writing skills and strong, ability to communicate. But the interaction with clients, and also really understanding when you're, for me at least as an English major, I have a point to get across, I'm going to write it down, here's my paper or whatever it is. When you're working with the media or influencers or even clients, you really have to adapt your messaging, not just for what you want to say, but what others want to hear. So I think that was a big skill that I needed to pick up, which was, okay, I think this reads great. But the client might not, or this particular member of the press might want it a different way, and how do I find a way to be flexible with that and really adapt to what they're looking to hear. And that comes into play a lot also, as I was saying, we're all saying, going beyond PR to kind of other mediums, you also have to be very flexible with making those adaptations.
Thank you very much for that. Other questions from the audience? Or any of our panelists care to chime in as well? Okay. Here's a question from Gabby, one of our members. Why did you choose this specific branch of the industry, be it beauty or fashion or lifestyle? What spoke to you about that space amongst all the others you could have got into in PR?
Sure. So for me personally, it's the creativity aspect of it. I grew up thankfully with like a very supportive group of parents, and I was always more in acting and theaters and all of these things. So looking at college wasn't something that was forced upon me or thrusted upon me. It was my decision and really my choosing. So when I decided what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, I knew I needed to work in something creative. But I also love business, and I love being able to really get my hands dirty and be a part of something. PR is very hands-on. You can't expect to get into it and to not like literally be elbows deep and doing it, because that's what makes anybody, any job, that's what's required. But with PR, it is demanding in its own respect, and that was, something that I gravitated towards. So I knew I wanted to be in fashion in the sense of the creativity aspect. And as I transitioned out of working at strict just fashion PR firms, it was super critical for me to find somewhere that did creative work. I knew that I had worked on video game clients, and I had worked on like tech, and I wasn't bad at it. It just, if you're going to be dedicated to doing something and you actually have the choice, for me, it's if you're putting in all of those hours, put it towards something that you do have an interest and passion towards, because it's going to result in a better work performance, and it's going to make you happier. And even though you have you're gonna have crap days, like that's just life. So might as well make the best of it. So that's definitely a reason that, I focused my efforts into the fashion and lifestyle space.
Thank you. And Alana, Stephanie, do you care to chime in?
I'll jump in.
Okay. With me, I've always had a passion for the beauty industry itself. While in college, I also part-time as a sales associate in Bloomingdale's and Fifth Avenue, just working with fragrance and beauty. So, but I've also had a passion for just creating messages, representing other clients, and just I had a passion for just showing that message to the world in a creative way. So what better way was to do that with PR, but also with the beauty industry itself. So meshing the two together was something that just kind of worked out, and it's working out so far. So I feel like working now with representing, for example, Urban SkinRx, which is a clinical skincare product line for diverse skin tones. I love their messaging, overall messaging, and just showing that and creating their message in a strategic way so that it resonates with the media, so that the media can share with the world, and so that consumers can see what the brand does. That to me is at First and Last PR, there's our goal, our main goal, and our main passion. And then just talking about beauty itself is so much fun. So it's comfortable for us. So that's pretty much what kind of guided me in that direction, and I'm loving it so far. So yeah.
Thank you. Alana?
So my passion was for communication actually first, before an industry. Probably why we are more of a generalist agency and kind of talk to a lot of different industries. My first job was in PR for enterprise technology, like really boring, and no offense if that's a big passion for anyone, but like back-end technologies that companies were using, and it, you know, not really anything that appealed to me personally. But I did love, as Stephanie was saying, kind of the idea of getting a message down and being able to communicate, especially with those kinds of quote-unquote boring technologies, to be able to really distill the message and communicate that in a way that was interesting was very exciting for me. Over the years, and I'm referring to my very first job, but once I started Resound, I definitely wanted to start to integrate some categories that were more personally interesting to me. So we do still do tech. We'll call it corporate tech because I don't want my clients to hear me saying that it's boring tech. But you know, that transition to some more consumer technology and things that, you know, I was using on a day-to-day basis. Once I became a parent, we started doing more baby and family, and now we're working with a number of toy brands. Definitely lifestyle and beauty and health and fashion became a part of it too. So I agree with what Amanda was saying, which is, you know, if you can attach kind of your passion for communicating to a category that's really interesting to you, you will be really excited about your work every day because it allows you to bring something personal to the table as well beyond just the communication skills.
Another question from the audience, folks? Chris, back to you, yes?
Piggyback off that, where's the fine line between taking your personal interest in it and keeping it professional? When you draw yourself so much into the work itself and lose yourself at times.
Anybody care to
Creativity.
speak to that question?
I mean, I can speak to it just from because I'm looking at it from a slightly different perspective as the owner of an agency. You do have to not necessarily, you want to pour your all into every client. And actually, because we're a smaller agency and we work with a lot of startups, they almost become our babies, you know, and personally, we become very invested in every brand. At the same time, we have other clients, and so you have to find that balance where, okay, I want to give them everything as though it were my own company and be successful for them as though it were my own company, but also, you know, make sure that there's a balance so that they're not getting 1,000% of my attention all the time. So it's definitely a balancing act.
Anybody else of our panelists care to chime in?
Yeah, I agree with Alana in many ways. At First and Last PR, we tailor our client needs. So we use pretty much our passion, but also listen to the client. That's part of the communicating process. So, you know, as much as we want to share what they want to share with the world, we need to listen to what their needs are, and every client is different. So that's kind of how we keep the professionalism, keeping that communication intact at all times. And yeah, so, and of course, just adding our own twist to it and making sure that we kind of work together in alignment. So, yeah.
Thank you. Amanda, would you?
So yeah, I guess like, of course, what they said when it comes to the separation of making sure that you're really just addressing client needs. More first and foremost is, you know, you have like a passion for an industry, so let's just call it fashion, and you're working with a fashion brand, which is the ideal. You want to be able to put everything into that, but you want to make sure that you have realistic expectations of making sure that the client's expectations are realistic. Always having that open conversation and really nailing down what your KPIs are, what the needs are of the client, and what's the best way to achieve them. And if you are in an agency, some of you might go on to be able to do in-house where you're just working on one brand, and that is super fun and it's totally different. But at the end of the day, no matter where you are, no matter how many clients or accounts you are working on, you know, use your passions. Like for me, it's about, you know, using the passion that I have for what I do to get a message across, because that excites me. You're gonna have days that, you know, you're not excited, but it's just trying to tap into that, but then also making sure that you give yourself and whatever your passion is. For me, you know, I love fashion so much, so I don't work with high couture brands anymore, but I always, you know, have time to myself during fashion weeks where I'm most definitely like watching shows still, and that's like, you know, part of what I like to do on my own time. So I think it's just making sure that you kind of really evaluate and balance everything, which I think is a trait that every publicist and communicator develops over time, because I certainly was one to like go in like head first and be like, you know, pounding the pavement for the first couple years. And so I get, you know, you can let your passions, to your point, kind of override. And if you get too consumed in your work, then you're also going to kill your passion. So it's just kind of always have that in mind, for sure.
And just to piggyback off of that, one of the questions from our students in our PRSSA group was passion, obviously, but aside from that, what are some of the other traits that really help somebody succeed in these spaces, the beauty, the fashion, the lifestyle industries?
Be willing to listen and observe. Like, don't ask immediate questions. Watch how a room works. Like what Alana said, like, you learn so much in school, which is great. It's a foundation. But the reality is the inner workings of how an office operates, how interviews happen, how you're coordinating things and you're balancing at the same time maybe some very difficult or sassy media members along with sassy client. Like, you can find your balancing act, and you're going to be able to do all of these things. Be able to really take it in, look around you, take mental notes, and then ask questions when you know you don't have the answer. And be preemptive. I think really being able to say, like, all right, I know that, you know, once you have like basic protocols, you know, secure an interview. So it's like, okay, I know that this needs to be set up, but then what's actually like steps like 3 and 4, and can I already address them? That way by the time I have all of this information, I'm hand delivering it to a client, it's a done deal, and you also look better, more importantly. So, but I think, you know, really being preemptive and being willing to always do the work. I found in my experience, the best managers and mentors that I've had in my career aren't the people that were elitist in their stature. It was the people that are, you know, doing a panel and still working, and those are the people that you want to work with and you want to work for. No one should be above anything, because everyone has to work together. Nothing in communications is a one-man team. You need your clients to work with you to communicate effectively, to understand needs and wants, and manage expectations, deliver, and hopefully deliver beyond those expectations. If you get good at it and you're really concise with talking to people, you can do that. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Alana?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we always talk about being proactive and kind of owning your work. So I think feeling that sense of ownership and accountability and being willing to go all in. As you're saying, you know, it's not just, okay, well, this is my job and someone else is going to take care of the rest. You should be ready to kind of address the whole in anything that you're taking on. I think having a thick skin is part of this job for sure. So I know I mentioned media hanging up on you. You can't take it personally. And even, you know, client feedback and, you know, all types of people that you're engaging with, there's going to be some good moments and some bad ones. And you have to be willing to take constructive criticism, have a thick skin, and kind of move on from there. I would balance that, though, with, you know, you don't have to be this kind of tough person all the time. I think we always talk about, with the media, polite persistence. So we never give up on anything, and we're tough in that way. We're always polite, and you made a good point, always listening to what others need and making sure that, you know, we're balancing those two things. So I think being able to have that confidence, I would say, to get your job done, whatever it takes, but balance it with being a good person, a friendly person to work with. That still goes such a long way in this industry, even if the people you're working with aren't always nice back.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Yes,
Stephanie?
absolutely, I agree. I believe in just positivity, remaining positive through everything, which is pretty much what you guys are saying. Just be positive, show up, do the work. There's going to be piles of work for you every single day. It's going to vary. It's going to change. You might think this is what you have scheduled for the day, but your client might need something last minute, or I don't know, a package didn't get delivered on time for a major event, or whatever the case may be, or which we love these actually, when an editor wants fact sheet submitted or images submitted for a story that they're working on, which is always great. But just be mindful of those things and just be proactive all the time. Be aware that might happen, but just remain positive. And everything will flow once you just keep that mentality that this is going to work. We want to do the work, and that good work ethic is intact. Everything else will follow, and you just keep learning. Be a sponge. You never think that because you have a certain amount of time in the field, that you've learned everything, that you're constantly going to keep learning, which is amazing in this work field. So, yeah.
So it certainly sounds like proactivity, positivity,
Yeah.
persistence. Those are the ones to really hold on to.
Yeah,
Right, the 3 Ps. Right? The question up front here, yes.
So my question to you guys is how, as women, how do you handle being assertive in this industry, and what would you tell yourself when you first started working, I guess, as an intern, maybe a humbling time, or maybe a mistake you made and how you handled it, or how you didn't make that same mistake. So what advice would you give your younger self when you started, and also how do you handle being assertive in the industry?
Anyone want to take it?
Feel free, whoever care to start off the conversation.
I would actually tell myself to be more assertive. So I think that ties together. I think it's definitely challenging to do, and I think it's not only about your gender. I think it's personality, right? Not everybody has it in them to speak up. And I think that's what I would probably tell myself. You have to have confidence in what you know and in what you don't know, right? So you have to have confidence to be assertive in sharing your ideas and putting forth what you think is a good idea, but you also have to have the same assertiveness to ask questions when you don't know the answer to something. And that's something that we talk to our interns about a lot, which is, you know, listen, don't bombard us with a million questions a day. Do the research, try to figure it out on your own first. But then please don't be afraid to ask, because you don't want to go down a path where you're in the wrong direction and then you have to completely backtrack. So I think definitely finding that confidence in you to either speak up or ask the right questions would be something I would tell myself to do early on, for sure.
Anybody else care to respond to the question?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% own your work and be proud of what you do. I think the other thing, just as myself, I wasn't even an intern when this happened. I was fully working, and this was one of the most terrifying things. I was transcribing a interview off of a voice recorder and hit a wrong button, and some of it got erased. Super fun. It was Liv Tyler's Phil McCartney. I did not want that to happen. And the only thing in that moment, which I did do, it was a big point for me of just owning it.
Yeah.
Just own it. And like, own your mistakes and learn from them, and understand that the world is not going to end. You are not going to get canned because you made a mistake. It's not like, what will get you possibly looked down upon or fired is lying and saying you didn't do it when you did. So own your mistakes and learn from your mistakes, but don't think that you're like, you know, and it'll feel like it's still, that I still could feel my stomach drop. That was one of the worst things ever. But the only thing I could do was own my mistake and move on and figure out preemptively, once I realized what happened, what I could do to remedy it to the best of my ability. So yeah, just really own your stuff and don't freak out when you mess up. It's bound to happen.
You will, yeah, everyone.
Powerful advice, Stephanie, yes.
Well, I will just add to your question. I feel that, yes, it's important for women to just, in this world now, to remain positive and assertive and be able to speak up. But that comes, I believe you touched on this, Alana, but that comes from within. Everything that you do just comes from within. Just if you believe in what you want to do as a profession, as a life itself, and you strongly believe that you can make it there and you know how to, even if you don't know, it's good to just focus on that in mental always, and that's just what's going to help you be assertive. Just remain strong and positive. I feel like that's always going to be my answer, and it has helped. And I would tell my younger self that. I feel like when I just started in the industry, I was always a little shy or nervous, but then as you grow, you begin to feel more confident. And when you do these mistakes, especially, those are the best. Those are the best. Those are the ones you need to just conquer and just like allow it to happen. That's the best thing that can happen, I feel. And not at the moment, but you'll realize later that, wow, if that never happened, I would have, I don't know, something worse would have happened. I don't know. But yeah, that's it.
It's fantastic advice and a fantastic question. I know we have one in the back there as well, Tishiana.
Oh.
Like with PR, I know it's just like a ton of multitasking and balancing, and that's something I'm not good with at all right now. So I wanted to know, like, what's some like key points and some things that you picked up along the way to help you with multitasking with the clients or the job?
Personally, now that's what's working for me. I have a really short attention span. So I have a calendar, and that's literally has been my life right now. I have a to-do list. I check things off on a daily, and be responsive at all times. If you have, like again, interruptions can happen at any certain time of your day. So just make sure you just jot it down and just follow through with whatever's happening, and make sure you go back to that. Treat your journal like it's your life. And that's very simple, but it works. It completely works. Just focus. Just focus on everything. Prioritize. Prioritize your day. What's more important for the day? What needs to get accomplished for the week? Make sure you just write all of that down and keep it to yourself, and make sure you follow through with everything and do the work. Just do the work. At that same moment, don't think too much about when it's due or you're gonna miss deadlines, or just do it at the moment. And I feel like that kind of is what's working for me. It's still a work in progress, but it's working. So yeah.
Ilana?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we found is that what works for one person is very different for someone else in terms of staying organized. I definitely think the list is still king, no matter how you track it. So for me, I need to write it down in a notebook. Someone I work with has to have it electronically. And one of the biggest arguments we have is trying to find a uniform way for everyone in the agency to keep track of their tasks, and no one can agree. Some need it electronically, some need to write it down. You know, whatever the case may be, find what works for you and stick with it. I mean, we've even had people schedule calendar invites for themselves for different hours of the day and schedule out their day as best they can. I'm gonna focus on this client, I'm gonna do this. And of course, as you mentioned, it may all go out the window because there are always last minute requests happening in this industry. But as long as you have some way that your tasks are structured that you can refer back to and that works for you, it should help to at least give you a semblance of organization. And again, you do have to be prepared for that last minute request and the multitasking. So, you know, if you're in the middle of something and you need to switch gears to something else, have a way to capture that. So again, if it's just writing yourself a Post-it to come back to it later, that's fine. If it's adding it to your electronic list, that's great too. But just, I think the key is making sure those little things don't get lost along the way.
Thank you. Amanda, would you care to add anything to that?
Yeah, everyone in our office too, we all work differently. I'm a lover of protocols and lists. But a trick one of my friends, not a publicist, but a lawyer, taught me, because I'll get, you'll realize it happens in college. You write down a list of everything you want to get done in the day, and it can seem just daunting. And as you're getting through your list, and even once it's prioritized, it's just, you have this huge list. When I realize that I'm getting too overwhelmed, I actually practice this little fun trick, which is just taking a Post-it, writing the first 3 tasks down, sticking that on your desk, put the entire other list away, get it out of sight, just so that way you can focus on the first 3 things. Check them off, throw that Post-it away, write the next 3 things down, focus on those. And when you have the little inconsistencies, and they do happen, and sometimes you have emails before you even get to the office that's derailing your day before you got there, but you know what's happening, and just add it to the list. So you have this ongoing list, but you're checking things off consistently. And I think when you have, at least for myself, when I know things are getting checked off, it feels so good. And you know that you have, like, you're accomplishing things. So, yeah.
Sometimes I will add things back to my list that I've already done just so I can cross them out, because it does feel really good. Yeah.
I can see a lot of folks are jotting down notes right now. They're jotting down these notes. I can see it.
It helps. Yeah, it helps.
Helen,
Sorry, I didn't mean to go.
I think we had a question back here, yeah.
All right, and this is, hi guys. And
Hi.
this is steer a little away from when I know you guys, did you guys start as interns, like internshipping? Of course, I know that's like key to
Yes.
public relations, because public relations is very broad. Everyone knows that. But how did you know which internship to go into, or how did you know how to start? Because I'm in my 3rd year right now, and you know this is where things start crunching down on you, when you have to start thinking of where to go next, what to do next. So, do you have any advice on that?
Open question, whoever would care to respond.
So yeah, as far as interning goes, like for myself, when I decided I was looking into PR, I lived in LA, so I just started looking at like the bigger firms, like who did I know that was in a space that covered the spaces I was interested in, but would also expose me to a lot of different categories. So I looked at BWR, and I was thankful enough to get an internship there, and I floated. I didn't commit to a single department with them, which I mean, you can always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask questions, like things like that. When you go and interview and talk with people, they're like, do you have a specific, department you want to work in? I was like, honestly, I'm interested in music, lifestyle, fashion, and travel, and I did all of them. I floated between all the departments, but it gave me a good idea of what I really kind of wanted to do and where I was going to really try to focus my energy. So yeah, I would, perhaps I went to a large agency just to kind of get that feel. And then out of college, I took an in-house job right away. So it's very different. So yeah, but.
I think it's hard to know what you want before you have it, right? So that's the challenge of an internship, to find the perfect internship, but it may not be the perfect internship, right? And so part of the process is, it's okay if it's not the perfect fit, right? Because you're still going to gain experience, work experience, office experience. That stuff is very important in addition to the specific, okay, PR work, social media work, fashion, beauty, whatever the case may be. So having experience working with a team, working in an office, I think that is your first goal with looking for an internship. And then your second goal can also be not just figuring out what you do want, but what you don't want, right? So if you go through an internship and maybe that was a great experience, but this is definitely not what I want to do. I don't want to be in a small agency. I want to check out a big agency, or I hated the big agency, maybe smaller in-house is better for me. So I don't think your internship is going to necessarily be where you end up. I started with an in-house internship actually, and my first job was in-house, and then I moved over to agency. So, and it's okay to change jobs too, by the way, once you have one. So, and I think that's actually really important. You should never feel like you're stuck in anything. You should always be looking at, okay, am I feeling this? Am I happy? Am I contributing? Whatever the case may be. You can also look at your first job as an internship also. It's not, okay, I did the internship and now I got to do this and this is the track that I'm on. It's really exploring where your strengths are and where you enjoy things most.
Fantastic advice. Stephanie, do you want to add anything to that question?
I agree with them in every way, but just check to see what your interests are currently in every aspect of your life, whether it's in school, your current job, your activities, and see how that helps your identifies with your personality, and then you kind of go from there. I know with me, again, I like the beauty industry, so I always vetted beauty firms when I wanted to intern, or any lifestyle firms, but I also liked an intimate setting. So my first internship in the field was with a smaller MTL Communications, which was a smaller firm agency. And I liked it there. It was nice. It was a nice setting. So the experience was definitely something that helped me with what I am doing now. So then my second internship, which I'm very fortunate to still be working in as now an account manager, I kind of learned more and more just being on the field itself, and just like they mentioned, it's always, every experience counts. So you have to just step in, step in and do it, and then you go from there. And yeah.
It's a very good question and very good advice. One question we should get to, as believe it or not, we are quickly almost running out of time, about a little more than 10 minutes left. Influencers in this space, what role do they play? The line between awareness and ethics, and how does all this work out in the beauty, fashion, and lifestyle space? open question to our panelists.
Sure. Well, in the beauty industry, there are so many beauty bloggers, bloggers. We work with a lot of natural hair influencers, since our clients are mostly with natural hair products, and also just skincare. So they're so huge right now. The Instagram, social media followings, YouTube, all of those aspects, they're amazing. So we actually work, we have traditional PR, first and last PR, but we also have a social media influencer program where we kind of do the same outreach, not the same exact outreach, but we outreach with bloggers. We have our blogger list, aside from our actual media list, traditional lists, short, long lead lists. So we kind of work with them on a daily basis. So whether if it's, hey, introducing the brands to them, or having them work in an event for us, or just seeding products and pitching, and them just posting them on their social media channel. That creates such buzz for our clients, and they're budgeting, our clients are budgeting now to work with these influencers, because those are they're the ones who are kind of reaching their consumer base. So we definitely create a lot of different programs with influencers and try to work directly with them. They're so key, but then when it comes to PR now, there's this fine line between paying bloggers and then having just a traditional way of just, pitching an editor and just securing the story. But now, we have influencers where we have to kind of see what the budget is. They have a rate. Now every influencer with with a higher following over 100K, they're definitely asking for some kind of, even lower. Oh yeah, yeah. So they're asking for some kind of rate, some kind of partnership. So that has kind of changed the communications and PR industry. So, but it's interesting to see where everything's going, and it's working. And brands are actually, they're doing it. They see the results.
Yeah. Want to speak to Ashley?
Yeah, sure. So as far as, influencers, I think really is, to your point, it's a general thing. You can find the right influencer, especially in the lifestyle market, for what you need. The benefit of influencers, and I think why the industry has been shifting so much, is that the way that our generations consume and make purchasing decisions is completely different. They used to be able to run a magazine ad that said, like, this is the world's greatest couch, and you're like, that's the world's greatest couch, cool. But now it's like, no, I want like 18 reviews. I want to know who likes it. What's your favorite seat to sit on? Tell me everything about it. Do your kids like it? How does your dog like it? They want more than what just media, a third-person source, is going to give. So influencers open up the opportunity for really any brand to say, I'm now connecting with my consumer on a personal level, and it's obtainable. I like to think of it as an obtainable lifestyle for the most part, because you're never going to be, Kate Upton on a magazine, but you can be the mom blogger with 3 kids that still finds a way to go for a run, and you're like, hey, I can do that, and what stroller does she use to go for a run? Because I'm going to buy that one. So it has a different marketing power, and I think that, it definitely has created an interesting space for earned and owned media, and paid media, and that's why everything's changing. That's why none of us are just publicists anymore. It's really learning to navigate kind of all these little moving sectors.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that I actually, the jury's still out for me on influencers, and I think that the industry is also, the jury's still out. I think it's a very new element of our industry. And there's an influencer for everything. So I mentioned that we work across a lot of different categories. There are obviously beauty influencers, fashion, there are toy influencers, there are children who get paid tens of thousands of dollars to make a YouTube video about the latest toy. And brands, to the point Stephanie made, are putting budget aside for that, whereas with traditional PR, the idea of a budget or paid used to be just completely taboo. So everything is changing now because brands are looking at, okay, what are all the different ways that we need to get out there? Do we need to put money towards it? I think the thing to be cautious about is now all of a sudden putting all of our eggs in the influencer basket when there is still traditional media that carries weight. There are influencers who aren't as influential as they say they are. And in fact, there's a lot of new regulations and rules that are being put into place to really crack down on not only influencers and how they're presenting their reach, but also how brands are being portrayed by influencers. So recently on Instagram in the last year or so, you start to see hashtag ad or sponsored. They need to be more transparent about the fact that those are paid opportunities. So there's a lot of changes that are still happening in this space, and I think, you know, every agency and every PR person has to have an eye on incorporating influencers into the mix, but you have to look at everything with a grain of salt these days. And I think the best is a mix of different types of channels that includes influencers, traditional PR, and then that adage now, earned, owned, shared, paid. I might have it in the wrong order, but that's all part of the mix now.
While also maintaining the authenticity and the credibility
That's
within
huge,
the
right.
brand. So that's something that we always have to just maintain when it comes to influencers,
Right.
especially.
Certainly sounds like an emerging space
Very
in these
much so.
industries, despite the fact that there's still space for publicity in traditional media.
Oh, yeah, which is great, and that's important.
I think we have a question in the back. It's in the essence of time.
Just curious, what's your impression of buying followers, and how do you identify those
Taboo.
that, you know, people,
Oh, so
those
bad.
influencers that buy?
Well, I will give you an example, not from an influencer standpoint, but we actually took over the social media pages for a client. And there was a huge difference between their number of followers and the actual engagement on their posts. And that is a dead giveaway that something is wrong with your following, right? Because if you have 1 million followers, but 2 people are liking your post, that's not real followers. So I think, you know, everyone looks down on the purchased followers, but it is very hard to navigate, and that's one of the reasons that it is really important to do your due diligence with these guys and really make sure that they're adding value. Some of it is trial and error, so you may pay someone for a post and it may do amazing and give you the results that you want, and it might not, and then you move on, you know, to the next one and keep going. But overall, I would say very taboo in the industry, but very hard to detect.
So it's hard to detect who's bought followers, things like that.
Yeah, to
It's
a
hard.
certain extent, absolutely. But to her point, like that, the best way you could is really looking at, you know, really diving into an account and saying, okay, they have 20,000 followers, but they only have 200 likes on a picture. Like, that math doesn't really equate. And so at the end of the day, you're not looking for an influencer that just has a robust following. That doesn't guarantee you anything. What you want is someone that's speaking to their audience and has engagement and is looking to go back. Yeah, we've even done, we did a marker launch. I know that we do a lot of art, and so we launched a new marker with a high-end art company, and it was a new product for them. I saw it as an opportunity. You know, we were looking at influencers. I was like, hey, you know, it reminded me of fashion illustration markers as Prismacolor. So I was like, why don't we look to do that? And so we, as a team, put together a really great plan, tied it into Fashion Week, which was gracious timing, but reached out to a bunch of well-known fashion illustrators to do fashion illustrations with the markers. And while some of them requested money, we actually got a few that were like, that totally we should have paid, but didn't ask for it just because they loved the product, which you can get blessed with that if you do it organically. It's not like each influencer too, it's not, you shouldn't blast email pitches out either, but especially with influencers, like if you're not taking the time, no matter if you're media, a blogger, influencer, your trust that you build with anyone is knowledge. Your knowledge of what they've written, your knowledge of what they cover, your knowledge of, you know, what they're actually interested in, because otherwise you're just blindly emailing someone hoping that you're miraculously going to get like some coverage, but it might not make any sense. So always know what you're going in for. And when you do, and you have the organic opportunities with influencers, you know, we were so fortunate. We got some really beautiful, 1, artwork and 2 videos shared, and then the engagement on those posts, like if you look at things and people are like, hey, where did you get this marker? How do you like the feel? And when they're honest, like, hey, the white marker was a little dried out, but I really like this factor. That's great. That's what you want, but it's really looking at the engagements, I think.
Anybody else care to speak to that question before we end on our last notes? Believe it or not, we are coming down to the last moments in our panel. It's gone by so quickly. It's such a great conversation. So really just please a round of applause for our panelists. In our remaining moments, any parting advice you'd like to give to our students here? And then last but not least, the last note we'll leave for Alana. I know you wanted to mention something about PRSA and Jay. So folks, the floor is yours. Any parting words of wisdom?
You know, really, for me, it's a lot of what we've touched upon, but use your education that you garner here and apply it to your life experiences and understand that there's so much more to learn, but that it's a constantly evolving industry. So, you know, we're all rolling with new ways of doing things. We were joking earlier that once upon a time you could fax a pitch to someone. Like, you don't do that anymore, but like, yeah, like that existed when I started, and I will just never forget that. It's been like a really crazy, cool ride to see where the industry is going, but, you know, just be willing to constantly adapt and learn and know that your learning is never done. So, welcome to the journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Lana?
Yeah, I'd say don't be intimidated, and hopefully we haven't scared you off, because I know we did talk about fire drills and big piles of work and lots of changes, but actually, you know, if you enjoy communicating and you enjoy a fast-paced career, it's definitely the career for you. It can be a lot of fun. There are a lot of highs. Getting a great placement, whether it's traditional media or an influencer, feels amazing. Helping your client grow and be successful feels amazing. So it can be a really fun industry. So I would say stick with it.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Yeah. I would add on to that and just say, just continue to pursue your dreams, whether it be communications or anything related to it. Just continue to strive for what you want. Don't give up, and just remain positive with everything. Those are my advice.
Thank you very, very much. And then our last note, we'll close on this. Alana, you'd like to mention briefly about this program here at PRSA&J?
Yes, so we are at PRSA, we have an annual awards program where we honor the best campaigns from agencies and actually in-house all across the state. But one of our awards is for the Future PR Pro, and that is open to PRSA members, juniors or seniors, who show promise in the industry. So we are currently accepting entries for this award. The deadline is May 4th, I believe. I have the link here, so maybe we can share that around if you guys are interested. But the winner receives a $3,000 cash scholarship, which is really awesome. And you get to come to our Pyramids Awards dinner in June and network with PR professionals from all over the state. And it's a really great opportunity. So I encourage everyone to nominate themselves and enter.
Yes, and please do. And folks, thank you for coming once more time for our panelists. Thank you so much for their time. We're officially out of time. We'll see you folks next year for the panel. Have a good rest of the semester. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, ladies, can I slap a shot of all three of you? You'll probably get tagged.
Thank you so much.
Just so you
very
know.
much for coming. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. Oh, by all means. Thank you so very, very much. Very, very much.
Hi, I'm the vice president here. So I just want to say hi, thank you for coming. My name's Tori. Hi, thank you for coming. Your words were so nice. It makes me so excited. But thank you, thank you.
I work for University Relations. Do you mind if I get a picture of you guys for the Instagram?
All right, ready? Are you taking a picture too?
You too, you go
Come
first.
join the
You're
team,
first.
girls. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Can you move it a little bit? Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, we're in this like funny little.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm just going to snap one with this logo right here. One last one. Oh, wait. No, you're fine. All right, ladies. And we're good. Thank you. Wait one second.
Don't move.
That's a good photo. For that one. You guys are celebrities today.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you guys so much. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we have goodie bags.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for everything.
Thank you guys.
I like the expression.
Yeah, I know. It was really fun.